Hi everybody, this is Cheryl Richardson. I'm here for our weekly Facebook Live session, and I'm looking forward to being with all of you, and I'm going to wait just a couple of minutes as people start to connect. Let me know that you can hear me and see me okay by just sending a heart or a thumbs up across the screen. That would be awesome if you could do that. And it's really windy and rainy here, really windy. So I don't know if all of a sudden you might be able to hear the house. Feels like the house is shaking sometimes. Anyway, hi Terry, welcome. Nice to have you here. And Teresa, it was so great. I am just back from Phoenix, and I had a chance to meet some of the people that often join me here. Teresa was one of them. I was teaching the Speak, Write, Promote workshop in Phoenix, and so it was great to put some beautiful faces to the names that show up here very often. I appreciate that so much. Hi Victoria and Sarah and Deborah, welcome. Welcome Jessica and Shelley and Shaf and Sherilyn and Kim, welcome. You can't hear the wind, but you can hear me. Well, that's a good thing. I'm glad about that. Hi Mary Kay, nice to see you too. Anyway, it's counting down a couple of weeks before the new book comes out. I'm starting to get a little nervous. I just got a box of books in, so I got to actually see the finished book and look through really quick and make sure all the changes were made, which they were. I was really grateful to Harper One for doing a great job with it. And I'm starting to mail out a few copies. And a while back, I had done Goodreads.com was doing a contest for people to receive a copy of the book, and I found out that if you were outside of the U.S., you couldn't get the book. So it was only for people inside. So I decided to do my own contest and invited people to submit their email address, and I chose 3 people from outside of the U.S. to get the book, and Natalie's the first one. And her book went out today, so she gets it 2 weeks before everybody else. I figure, well, wait a minute, we have to take care of everybody. And if you have to be in the U.S. to take advantage of the Goodreads special, then definitely, you know what? We're going to make sure that we give you a little, leg up outside of the country. How's that? Speaking of outside of the country, I'm headed to London next week for 5 days. I'm so excited. I love the UK during Christmas. I'm happy to be going away with Michael, and we'll be having dinner with Michelle Pilley, who's the Hay House publisher over there, and seeing lots of friends, and we're going with our friends Bob and Melissa. And it'll be nice to get away and to enjoy the holidays in a place where they love decorating, and I love holiday decorations. So the book is coming out on December 19th. It's released. You can pre-order it now, and I appreciate so much that you do. And please remember, if you want to read the book with a book club or a group or a life makeover group, if you order 5 copies or more, please hold on to your receipt, because you can send it to bookclub@cherylrichardson.com and be entered into a contest for a chance to have me visit your book club group via either Zoom or Facebook, a private Facebook page. So I'll be able to join you in your group, and we can talk about the book and do some coaching and all that jazz. So again, the email address is bookclub@cherylrichardson.com. If you order 5 or more copies, just hang on to your receipt. Tonight, I'm going to read an excerpt from the book, and I was going through, I picked out a couple of different excerpts, and then I came across this one, and I thought, you know what? I am going to read this one because it's a chapter or an entry, a journal entry. Remember, the book is called Waking Up in Winter, In Search of What Really Matters at Midlife. It's a memoir in journal form, and this particular entry is about my mom and about just the importance of acknowledging the women in our lives who have come before us. And I think this is probably a really good time, better time than any, to be reading something about women, the contribution that we make as women, the stuff we've had to put up with as women, and God knows we're hearing a lot about that. The the ways in which we weren't empowered before, but we are empowered now. And I just thought, when I came across this entry, I thought, you know what, this is a really good one to read. And this, of course, is dedicated to my mom, who may be here, maybe on Facebook Live, I don't know. But if you are, Mom, I hope you like this, because she's not read the book yet. All right, so this is a journal entry on February 8th. Mom and her best friend Teresa left yesterday after having paid us an overnight visit. Occasionally, I'm able to get them here to enjoy a queen for a day mini vacation when I like to give them the royal treatment. I mean that in a good way. And yes, you can order on Amazon. Mom is reluctant to leave Dad alone these days because of his poor health, but thanks to my sisters who helped out, she was able to make the trip. This was obviously before my dad passed last year. I turned the library into a spa and arranged for a massage therapist to give Teresa her first massage ever, and my mom her first one in a long time. I moved the big recliner chairs off to the side and set up the massage table in the middle of the room. I covered it with soft flannel sheets warmed by a toasty heating pad, sprinkled some lavender and geranium essential oils on an eye pillow, and turned the lights down low. Mom told Emmy, the massage therapist, that after Emmy finished with her, she could tell me what my body was going to look like in 20 years. We all had a good laugh over that. When their massages were finished, Mom and Teresa were floating on air. I find few things more satisfying than providing people I love with pampering. Later that night, Michael joined us at a local restaurant for dinner. I was planning to order food from a nearby store to enjoy here at home, but while we were having a glass of wine, the lights went out. I think it was the universe's way of protecting me from having to clean up a huge mess. We had quite the feast, too much wine, and so many laughs my stomach hurt. Teresa made homemade apple pie for dessert, which we ate after coming home. I'm still kicking myself for casually asking if the crust was store-bought before I took my first bite. In Teresa's world, store-bought crust doesn't exist. The pie begged for a second helping, and we happily answered its call. Full and happy, we all went to bed. The next day, we lounged around, enjoying a light lunch of baked sweet potatoes stuffed with cheddar cheese and spinach, and talked about how a woman's life today is different from the way it was when Mom and Teresa were younger. Both women shared stories about preserving food in an icebox. Listen to this. Both women shared stories about preserving food in an icebox, using a wringer washing machine, and the importance of ironing cloth diapers after hanging them out to dry in the cold air. I had no idea how hard they worked in the good old days. The good old days are in quotes. Listening to their stories, I felt an enhanced appreciation for the advantages I have today, and for the women who helped build the foundation upon which my life now rests. Women of my generation need to know more about how our ancestors emotionally and physically muscled through a challenging life. It's certainly an eye-opener for me. We enjoyed 2 wonderful days together, and as Mom and Teresa were leaving, I closed the front door and said a silent prayer, asking God to guide them home safely. Tears welled up in my eyes as I thought about an exchange between Mom and me about getting older and the limited time we have left together. My first response was to tell her we have plenty of time, a typical default reaction intended to keep the conversation on safe ground. But Mom wouldn't have it. Cheryl, she said with a hint of steel in her voice, we don't know how long we have, and I want to tell the truth about that. That's a mother. A truth we all do our best to ignore. What I didn't tell my mother is that I've been thinking about death a lot lately. I think about it as I watch her walk down the steps toward the car. I think about it when she calls to sing happy birthday and then sings another version from her 2 cats meowing at the top of her lungs. I think about it with every thank you card I receive from her in the mail, its passages underlined over and over again to emphasize the message. And I think about it when my mother tells me stories about her life, because I know that someday these stories will slip through the cracks of time and I'll miss them for the rest of my days. Today I bow to my mother, an inner acknowledgement of her courage and strength, of the sacrifices she's made and the wisdom she's gleaned from years of making the care of others her biggest priority. Stay awake, I remind myself nearly every day now. Be present. Be present. there you have it. So important, right? To stay awake, to be present, to appreciate the people in our lives who are responsible in some way for where we are. Thank you everybody for your feedback. I appreciate it. You know, as hard as death is, it is such an important reminder of what really matters. And certainly I'm very grateful to be able to spend time with my mother, just like I was with my dad before he passed. My dad spent some time writing a good amount of his life story before he passed, and I am so grateful that I have those pages. And my mother's a straight talker and one of the most loving and caring women I know, and extremely independent. I would actually say anti-dependent. I tell her that, Mom, you're anti-dependent. But that day when she was leaving, which I still remember so vividly, I just remember thinking how important it is to just really value and be present for the things that really matter. And those things that really matter aren't things. They're usually people and experiences, and little furry friends as well, of course. So anyway, I'm going to take a little bit of time, and as I said, that's from Waking Up in Winter. It'll be out on December 19th. It'll be released then, almost here. And I thought I would take a little time and maybe answer some of your questions about midlife or transition, because although the book talks about searching for what really matters at midlife, it's really a book about the hero's journey and what happens when we reach a point in our lives where we know something needs to change and we pivot. And we don't know where we're going, but we know we have to do that pivot. We know we have to make some change. So if you have a question, something I can support you with, I'll take a little time to respond. You can just put your question in a comment. I'm going to go through and just take a look at some of these as we do that. Thank you, Jean. Yes, female relationships are so important. Thank you, Julie and Lori. Women are so important. I mean, I could do, and I probably will at some point do, a whole Facebook Live just on the importance of women finding their power, finding their voice, thinking for themselves, getting educated and informed, becoming intolerant of behaviors that should be intolerable. It all starts, change on a global level starts with change on the inside. When we find our voice, when we learn to say no, when we're brave enough to stand up to something, to behaviors or to people or rules or beliefs that just not only don't serve us, but don't serve humanity. Really, really important to find our own voice so that we can take a stand for the world. And it always begins by taking a stand in our own life, in our own families, in our friend relationships, in our workplace. And I'm a big believer in I'm a big believer in it being important that we learn to stand up with grace and love, because it gets heard and it gets appreciated and it often gets listened to more when we're able to do that. So anyway, let me look at some of your questions here. Let's see. How do you balance being inspirational to other women while still being real? I think being real is what's inspirational to other women. For those of you who have read my books and for those of you who haven't, all of my books are based on, they're based on my own life, my own journey. Take Time for Your Life was feeling like I didn't have time for my life. There was too much going on in the outer world, and I needed a way to get my priorities straight. And I needed to do things like invest in my financial health so I'd really have choices about how I lived and what I could walk away from that needed to be walked away from. And I needed to begin eliminating the things in my life that were draining my energy and begin to honor more of the things that were fueling me. And Life Makeovers was just my way of reinforcing all of that on a weekly basis for my readers online. Stand Up for Your Life was about finding my voice and about you finding yours and building courage muscles and setting boundaries and getting connected to what we value most so that we could orient our lives around our values. Those things were extremely important. And The Unmistakable Touch of Grace was about our spiritual lives, about connecting, not only connecting with the soul and honoring the soul in everyday life, but also recognizing that there is this divine power called grace that's available to all of us. We don't have to work hard to earn it. We don't have to do something. We don't have to be good enough to deserve it. It is our birthright. And when we start to really honor the soul, the universe rallies behind us and starts opening doors to really support our efforts. And then there was the art of extreme self-care, which was because here I was, a woman teaching self-care, and suddenly my life was in a state of disrepair when my husband got sick and we were building a home, and I was busy working, and I was just trying to juggle too many balls and eventually had to drop a lot of them. And it was about how I reclaimed my life, because we all move forward and then we move back. We grow and evolve and then we regress. And so that was my regression book, and it really outlined the process I used to get back on track in my life. So my books are always about my own life, and I tell the truth about what's going on. And part of the reason I'm publishing Waking Up in Winter is I want you to see it's very easy for people to assume, oh, she's an author. She's written a lot of books. She writes about self-care. She's been on Oprah. She must have it all together. And I don't. I'm a human being. And I wanted to share the reality that I don't. And I wanted you to be able to read about the times when I was scared and filled with self-doubt and unsure of what was next, and how I got myself through that, so that hopefully you can use some of what I've done to support yourself in getting through it. So I think inspiration comes from authenticity, and all of us need to be constantly striving to be more conscious, more evolved, more of who we really are. That's the goal. Wendy says, what's your thoughts on the rising of the divine feminine? We are in the midst, in the most distressing way, of experiencing the ugliness of patriarchy, which hurts both men and women. This structure of power of money over what matters. I like to believe that we're experiencing the demise of patriarchy, but it's going to take a while. And part of what's going to support that and happening is the rise of the divine feminine. What does that mean? It means bringing more thoughtful conversation to all systems. It means no longer seeing the world through the lens of black and white, but instead becoming fiercely committed to a collaborative approach to healing. It means caring about feelings and emotions. It means no longer worshiping at the altar of efficiency, but instead saying, wait a second, let's take a step back and let's deal with the problems that we have as a world, really, at their source, and not just the symptoms. It means taking a stand against the fact that big money buys our elections, makes our rules. And so it's really about honoring, it's about finding our voice. The divine feminine is about honoring the soul, the earth, our only home, by the way. Can't go anywhere else, at least yet. And even if we could, I wouldn't want to leave. So I think that we are seeing that happen. I think it has to happen more. And in my opinion, it begins with each individual woman who starts to say, you know, my inner life matters. My feelings matter. My own healing matters. I need to get help. It's becoming really masterful at reaching out and receiving help, because there's no way in hell I would be where I am in my life had I not had great support from friends, great support from coaching, really important support from therapy, wonderful therapists who over the years could host my truth and could host my confusion and my questioning. People who had been there before me, wise mentors. So we need to be able to do the healing work so that we're not always reacting, or we're not just towing the party line, or we're not speaking the truth of others instead of our own truth. That's what it means to have the to have the divine feminine rising, and it begins with how she rises in your own life. And it doesn't just happen with women, it happens with men as well. Men need to start to value their feelings, to value their soul, to really take a deeper look at what's going on in my life, what's working and what isn't, to reach out and get support. So many men I talk to are tired of just being the breadwinners and feeling like they have to live from the neck up and not feel able to even connect with their soul. It means no longer putting up with locker room talk or with unconscious friends who say stupid things when something inside of you knows that's not right, that's completely inappropriate. And it means having the courage to stand up and be a voice for what's right. We both need to do this work, and that's what it means to see the divine feminine. It's part of what it means to see the divine feminine rise on the planet, and we really need that happening. There's so much I could say about that, so much more, but I'm going to end there and continue to look. Yes, Anne says, anti-dependent. I never heard that, but I think that's me. And it's actually a lot of women. There's a lot of us who grew up feeling like, we were going to be empowered, we were going to be strong, we weren't going to need anybody, we were going to control our environments in order to feel safe. And it's wonderful to be empowered, and it's wonderful to be able to take care of ourselves. But when it turns to when it goes too far and we become anti-dependent, I don't need anybody, I'm okay, no, thank you, you don't have to carry that for me, you don't have to open the door, you don't have to, I'm not going to reach out for help because nobody's going to be able to help me. When it comes to that kind of anti-dependence where you start to be walled off, then you get into trouble, because we don't allow the men in our lives to be men in our lives. We don't allow ourselves to be soft and vulnerable, to enjoy the sensuality of life. We don't allow ourselves the gift of receiving from others, from men and women. We really rob people of giving us the gift of receiving. We rob people of being able to give to us so that we can receive. So anti-dependent is in the wrong direction. It's really a balance of interdependence where we can be there for one another. We can receive from one another. We can give to one another. That's the kind of softness and the vulnerability we want to cultivate. That's going to serve everybody. That's also supporting the rise of the divine feminine. And it's also going to help us to feel more empowered to speak up and take a stand for what's important in our lives and what's important for the world too. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of people, I know anti-dependent is a new, I first heard that phrase years ago from an author named Terrence Real. He wrote this wonderful book for men called I Don't Want to Talk About It, about the hidden legacy of male depression. As a matter of fact, that would be an awesome gift for you to buy for the men in your life. I Don't Want to Talk About It by Terrence Real. I'm going to write it down so I can include it in the post when we're done. I usually include resources. Terrence Real, I Don't Want to Talk About It. It's a really, really special book. I actually think it's a great book for men and women. I read it and I was just so moved by it. So I think you can buy it for the man in your life and then read it afterwards. Make a great holiday gift, by the way. Which reminds me, I should do a Facebook Live about good holiday gifts. Somebody remind me to do that. Let me make a note of that. That'd be good to holiday gifts that support our loved ones' growth and evolution. How about that? Wouldn't that be great? Holiday gifts to support growth. Okay, I have some ideas for that, and I'll do a Facebook Live around that. All right. What advice would you give? Julie says, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to yourself 10 years ago? That's a really good question. And I'll be honest, Julie, my first reaction to that kind of a question is, there's a part of me that wants to say, I'm not sure I would give any advice because who I am today is a result of what I didn't know back then. So, that's easy to say. Every challenge we go through helps us to grow and evolve. So that said, 10 years ago, keep asking for help. Slow down. Stop doing so much. Put more space between commitments so that you're not rushing from one thing to another. Spend more time in nature. It not only is healing, it will connect you to what really matters. Stare at the moon and the stars more. Have more fun. Recognize that the soul is here to experience life, not to accomplish. So it's really about being present for the experiences that we have more than trying to conquer life. Those are some of the things I guess I would say. And honestly, Julie, there's some of the things they're probably the reminders I think we all need over life, and certainly some of the reminders that I need now too. Slow down, breathe. Take time to just be present with yourself every day, even 10 minutes. Allow things to flow through you instead of grabbing a hold or clenching the heart. Allow life to flow through you. I'm really trying to do that these days as I grieve the loss of, our little cat Poupon, which has been, God, some of the hardest grieving I've ever done in my life, because this little being was so wrapped up in every moment of our lives. And I have to keep reminding myself when the pain comes up to breathe, let it flow through me, experience it. It's here because I'm supposed to experience it. Let it flow through, knowing that it's not, I don't have to clamp down on it. I don't have to, listen, the first 2 weeks were all about denying. No, I don't want this to be happening. I want him back. I was searching for little nail fragments and whiskers and fur and anything that would just make me feel connected to him. And that's normal. This is a normal part of grief. But then over time, it's only been 2.5 weeks, so I'm still in the throes of it. But it's still good messages like just take a breath, stay present with this. Yes, it's hard, but it's growing you in some way you don't know. So anyway, Julie, I hope that's helpful in some way. Let's see. Yeah, so Betsy's still struggling with the loss of her dad. It's been 15 months. And my mom and I are still struggling with our relationship. How do you start again after this great loss? You don't start again. I think what happens, Betsy, is the real question is, how do we integrate this loss into our lives? It's been 15 months, so it's really a good time to say, okay, how does this loss need to be woven into the fabric of my life every day? What do I need to do to honor my father and live my life in such a way that honors my father? Because I have to imagine, Betsy, that, and this comes from hearing a lot of communications between mediums and souls that have passed on. I have to imagine that where your dad is, he would want you to live your life, and he would want you to love your mom or to do what you can to work out that relationship. And so the real question is, I don't think we ever move past the people we love and have lost, or the pets we've loved and have lost. We learn to integrate it into our lives somehow. Okay. Oh, thank you, Eileen. I'm so glad. Let's see. So, Julie, you're so funny. Julie wants to know, how am I taking care of myself while I prepare to expose myself to the world in this vulnerable way with publishing a memoir in a journal form? Really good therapy. I've talked a lot about that. I've had to talk a lot about that over the last year as I've made a decision to do this. I've also really paid attention to boundaries. There's some things in the book that I share that I won't talk more deeply about, because they just don't warrant that. There's some things I talk about Michael and I that I've said what I need to say in the book, and I probably won't say anymore. And there are some things that I will talk about. So having good boundaries, I've been teaching good boundaries for a long time. And in some ways, Julie, I know, much like Debbie Ford, Julie knew Debbie. She she was like her shepherd, taking her through this, shining a light through this life and through the last stages of her physical existence here. I remember Debbie saying to me, when I said to her, Debbie, are you sure doing this work is a good thing given how sick you are? I'm afraid for you, how doing shadow work might be contributing to your ill health. And she looked at me straight in the eyes and she said, Cheryl, this is the work my soul's come here to do. And that's what I'm going to do. And I got it. And my soul has come here to share my experience in life, my experience with being a woman living an examined life. It's the most important thing to me. And so ultimately, when you are committed to your own growth and you find your voice and you value, I value my vulnerability, I value my soul, I value my authentic experience. So, and you know what? I've been around a while. Not everybody's going to like it, and I'm not going to die because of that. It's a lot harder to lose my little cat than it is to deal with people's criticism. And things like that is what I try to remember. So let's see. How do I set a boundary with a family member that's crazy? When I set a boundary with my aunts, they yell at my mom because I've set a boundary. Well, you can't control what other people do, and you can't control how they treat other people, but you could be a beautiful model for your mother by setting a boundary and deciding if a family member is crazy, like really, let's say mentally unwell and toxic, you really can't have much to do with them. And so therefore, the issue really isn't with your aunt, it's really with your mom. And letting your mom know that you love her and that you don't want to cause her a lot of problems, but you also can no longer deal with the crazy aunt. And so I would focus on keeping a strong relationship with your mother and letting her know that I would just say to her, you know what, I really don't want to talk about your sisters anymore or the aunts. I just want to talk about you and I, and keep your relationship about the two of you. Okay, I think I'm going to end it there. I'm going to once again, as always, say thank you so much for being with me. Thank you for supporting my work, my book. It's Waking Up in Winter, In Search of What Really Matters at Midlife. I'll post a link to the page that will tell you all the places you can order it. And on January 5th, I'm going to be doing a book launch here in Massachusetts at the Jabberwocky Bookstore, which is in Newburyport, Massachusetts. I'll put that date down as well. And I have a few surprises coming up, too, that I'll tell you about when they get firmed up. And yeah, that's it. So I love you all. I so appreciate you being here with me. And I appreciate you spending this time. I know that there's lots of places you could be putting your time and attention, and I value the fact that you do so here. So have a wonderful week, and I will look forward to talking to you next week. I'm going to try and sneak in a Facebook Live before I go to London. If not, I may just try and do one from London. Okay? All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Bless you.